afternoon everyone. I'm Ankita from the Department of History. And today the paper that I'm presenting is looking at bizarre things, the visual nature of tourist guidebooks in Colonial India. So this is the last session and everyone looks really exhausted. But the topic of my paper seems to think about a topic which we all love, right? We all love traveling and we all love being tourists and going to different places. So the point is that whenever we are traveling to other places, one of the first things that we do is pick up, nowadays of course it's social media, but of course a guidebook. And when we pick up a tourist guidebook, one of the first things we do is to look at what a particular place looks like. And that's why when I was working on my MPhil dissertation, I was wondering that, this is a thing which is very important. I mean, a tourist guidebook has to be very visual in its format. As far as tourist guidebooks are concerned, I am looking at 4 guidebooks. It's a paper which deals with 4 particular guidebooks. And just to sort of briefly tell you, this is John Murdoch's Pictorial Tour Around India, a handbook for travelers in India, Burma and Ceylon by John Murray. Again, a John Murray's guidebook called The Imperial Guide to India. And W.S. Kane's Picturesque India Handbook for European Travelers. Right. So, as far as tourism is concerned, it is a visual experience. We go to look at places and gaze at them. And as far as the colonial India is concerned, we know, the colonial empire was a deeply visual empire. It was working on objectification and visualization of the native Indian life. As far as these guidebooks are concerned, when I was looking through them, I found a lot of illustrations. And I thought, are these illustrations just supplement to the text? Or we have to look them also in its entirety. We need to also look at what they are telling us. So the fact is, when we look at the guidebooks, they look very dull. But when we open them, we find right. So this is the first page of Handbook for European Travelers, W.S. Kane, and this is a typical, the source is this typical street scene in India. So it opens up with a visual. So my paper is divided into 3 parts. As the topic, the broader topic of this conference is micro and macro histories, I was thinking that when we look at these guidebooks, we see they are inviting tourists not only to just see the grand and the extraordinary, but also the ordinary and the everyday in the Indian lifestyle and Indian living. The first part of this paper will look at the extraordinary. The fact that how they are inviting the travelers to visit what we all love doing, exploring the heritage, the history, and particularly as far as India is concerned, its monuments and heritage was one of the most exciting things that the travelers were looking for. So, as far as we know, there have been a lot of works by Chacha and others who talked about that how architecture and art, Indian art and architecture became based on object of colonial knowledge. And there is of course a lot of work which talks about that people like James Ferguson, Alexander Cunningham made this a study of architecture and archaeology into these subjects. But drawing from these, we see these guidebooks are creating a certain hierarchy of places to visit. So there are places that the tourist must visit. For example, Agra, Banaras, Delhi. So in the guidebook, John Murray's guidebook, we have these collages. So for example, Calcutta. So when I was looking through these collages, they are interesting because they are categorically sort of formatted in a way that they'll tell you what you have to, as a tourist you have to see. So they have the Black Hole, Hooghly, and the Dhobi Ghat. So these collages, in a way, sort of juxtapose images of the places that a tourist, anticipate to visit. Again, Banaras, they have very interestingly looked at all the temples, they placed temples, and then otherwise the image of the native is missing, but there is a small illustration of a fakir sitting there. So just Banaras being, of course, in the narrative, colonial narrative, being the most spiritual and the most exotic in that sense place, it became, so they have very interestingly placed the temples along with this small illustration of the fakir. Agra again, and Agra is of course for Taj Mahal being the most popular tourist destination. information, and other places as well. If we see carefully, there are some small illustrations of some British buildings as well. So there's Army Square here. There is, yeah. So there is this cathedral here. So interestingly, they have placed the British buildings along with the historical, in antiquity and modernity suddenly sort of comes together in these illustrations. However, okay. So before I go on to this, it's just not the monuments and the places to visit, but what is interesting to the traveler is the people. I mean, as far as even foreigners when they come to India, one of the first things they're looking for is different types of Indian people. I mean, how we look, how we dress up. I mean, these are things that really attract them. And so the second part is trying to look at how people different types of people are being represented. Now, this also goes back to, we all know, I mean, there are good works by Nicholas Sturz where he talks about how this was an ethnographic state which was looking for not people but categories. I mean, there are different types and typicalities of people. And in Christopher Pinney's work, he talks about how there is an infrastructure in picturing these, natives into different categories. So, drawing from all of these illustrations are also, drawing from this particular knowledge that is already in place. Now the first, the number of illustrations that we see, or the first illustration that we see are of different communities. And the two most important communities are that I saw here was Hindus and Muslims, the representation of Hindus and Muslims. And even in Hindus, they have this idea of Brahmins and different kinds of Brahmins. So for example, this is a Maratha Brahmin. Then they categorize him as a Bombay Brahmin. And they're differentiating them, I think, on the basis of their headdresses and the way they dress, particularly. Also, I mean, they're not only doing this, but cutting. So the
last one is not a Brahmin. The last one,
no, but they have mentioned as a Bombay Brahmin.
Okay.
It's in
that's a Jain sadhu.
No, this one, no? Yeah, this one. This is Jain Madhav. They have mentioned that. Otherwise, so again, these communities, they have placed these two illustrations together, probably to really sort of fix their roles. I mean, they've properly sort of shown them the Brahmin deeply invested in prayer, and even the Jain priest illustration is also very clearly, representing with that loin cloth and with the mask, just to represent that this is a Jain Mohammed. And again, this is illustration of a Mohammedan, a Muslim, and very interestingly, again, using the costume to represent how the quintessential Muslim looks like, and of course the beard as well. Not only men are being represented, but women as well. And as far as women are concerned, I found, again, the categories they work with is Brahmin women and Muslim women. And as far as this woman, and the aesthetic they in representing who is slightly different, because you are a woman with her one hand on her waist always. I mean, like this. So there's a different kind of aesthetic, and of course here as well, the jewelry and the clothes are clearly distinguishing a Muslim and a Hindu. For example, here a sari is being used, and this is a Muslim woman which is being represented, a salwar kameez with her dupatta there. And again, because the hand on the waist is there, and that aesthetic is being followed. So these Hindus and Muslims communities are being represented, but I found in one chapter, particularly in Bombay, there is illustration of the Parsis. So this is a Parsi merchant and Parsi women, and how the guidebook actually talks about Parsis being wealthy, being the most smartest of the classes. So they talk about Parsis in the chapter on Bombay. However, I mean, there is a deep fascination with hill tribes, and particularly I have the fascination comes with Nilgiris, particularly, and I have some quotes here where they talk about one major community in the Nilgiri hills being the Todas, and they are deeply fascinated by the Todas, and as W.S. puts it, the most attractive the tribes were the Todas, tall, well-proportioned and athletic, with bold independent carriage and finely molded sinewy limbs, which show they are sprung from effeminate race. Their dress consists of single cloth, worn in a manner which sets off their muscular forms. The men average 5 feet 8 inches and women 5 feet 1 inch. So this is an illustration of a toga, and there is again an illustration of so there is a chapter where they talk about the hill tribes and gives details about the hill tribes like the Lepchas, the Nepalese, the Bhutias, and one illustration is of the Bhutia woman. And again, the Bhutia woman is shown to be again distinctively represented by her costumes and her jewelry. These are the Lepchas, as they mentioned, Lepchas in the tent. Right. Now, the other things that I found in these guidebooks is that they are hugely interested in the everyday, the routine of Indians, how they actually maintain themselves, the very banal, mundane routine of the natives. And what I found interesting is that they are the illustrations they are dealing with. Some of the 3 illustrations that I talked about is one is dealing with the occupational categories of these natives. So one, the most ubiquitous representation is for Dishti, for water carrier. So this is a woman or water carrier of Dishti. And probably because there was, the Britishers were deeply frustrated by the dense heat in India. So the representation of Dishti is particularly interesting. And again, there's a fuel seller. So these are these guys. Now again, the illustration of these natives are clearly showing them in a subordinate role. I mean, as Dishti, or there's a fuel seller, and then this is a champan carrying there's probably a woman traveler on this is an illustration of a champan, and then this is a barber, so a oil merchant, a dark wala. So as I told you, I mean, they are trying to really collate for the tourist. I mean, when a traveler will come, these are the people who can give them services. The Dishti for water, the dark wala for post, and barber for haircut. So these are of course also representing a different lifestyle of Indians. How are they, how they work. And it's just not these occupational categories which are shown, but also there's some varied illustration like a woman grinding corn. I mean, these are things that we find. Then there is, this is Bhutias and at breakfast. I mean, this is not a clear illustration, but they, the guidebook is interspersed with these varied illustrations. One is a woman grinding corn, these are Lepchas having, the Bhutias having breakfast. And this is a banya working in a shop. So these illustrations are in some manner, trying to locate a different lifestyle of how Indians and their natives, how they work and how they actually locate themselves. This is an interesting illustration of turban fitters in Pune. And so, I mean, when I was going through the text, I was thinking that what are the relevance of these illustrations. I mean, there is a chapter which is deeply textual, describing other places, but suddenly you find these illustrations. So they are just there to actually give, as we know, the tourists were deeply interested in looking at what is different and what is exciting, and these things were really exciting for them to see. And so again, the third part of illustrations that are ubiquitous here are the illustrations of artisans. And as far as we know, I mean, there is a deep nostalgia for the Britishers. There is a nostalgia for a pre-modern past. I mean, they're trying to sort of create this dichotomy of a nostalgia for a pre-industrial, so this is a paradox which they're working in. I mean, they want to transfer modernity to India, but on the other hand, they're deeply fascinated by the native idea of art and artisanship. So these are some of the illustrations that I found of artisans. For example, the gold lace makers in Lucknow, and there is a tailor in Lucknow, the dyer shop, all of them dealing with the artisanal activities. The silversmith in Lucknow, the gold wire drawers in Biola, etc., etc. and tinsel cutter in Pune. So these, and okay, not even halfway. 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
It's 5 minutes there.
5 minutes.
Yeah, very good. So okay, and the other thing, what really, I mean, as the tourist which is coming to India is looking for is, and this has been there, the idea of fakir and the wandering aesthetics. And I mean, there is the guidebooks are also always have this illustration of a fakir. You have 2-3 description of places, and then you have an illustration of a fakir. Again, so there is the deep suspicion of Britishers with these highly mobile classes. I mean, Radhika Singh's work and other people have looked at this, at how they were looked at, being very superstitious, fanatical. And so we have these illustrations of a fakir like this, and they've been portrayed to with coiled hair, unkept, and of course, naked. And these are fakirs which are so different kinds of fakirs. For example, fakirs in Vrindavan. This is an illustration just taken from that. Then an ascetic, again shown in a particular way. Other than that, there is snake charmers and jugglers, and I found this illustration to be very provocative in the sense that this is what India is. I mean, for the Britishers, right? I mean, fakirs and snake charmers, and that is representing of the quintessential India. So, lastly, what attracted the tourists is the bazaars, and I have some. If I have little time, I'll just tell you how they are. Crowds and kiosks is what is they are being attracted to crowds and kiosks, and bazaars in that manner become very, very, again representative of India. So if I could just give you one, for example, by describing a bazaar in Bombay, that's what they say. So the markets of Bombay, like those of every Asiatic city, are full of picturesque interest to European visitor. The traveller will find never-ending amusement and interest in the crowds of gaily dressed Indians swarming in and out of the shops, the quaintly frescoed houses, or the mosques and the temples. Again, so what they find amusing is the crowds. And there is one again, mention of this strange curiosity with ghats, with burning ghats, with ghats around Banaras, and I have one very interesting description which they give about the ghats. Okay, so while describing ghats in Banaras, Kane writes up and down the ghats all day long, but especially in the early morning, stream the endless course of pilgrimages, rat traps, great crones, horrible beggars, hawkers who hang trees, sacred bulls and cows, Hindu preachers, wealthy rajas, or bankers in gay palanquins, fakirs, parish dogs, and scoffing globetrotters from Europe and America. So he's trying to sort of give you, what is being highlighted is this chaos, is this frenzied crowd and this maddening crowd, which is representative of, Indian lifestyle. And I mean, even if today I was thinking of the fact that whenever people from foreigners are traveling to India, they are deeply excited by, if I go to Chandni Chowk, they're not looking at the monument, but they're interested in the people, the crowds, something which really represents for them something different. So in conclusion, this paper was therefore an attempt to look at these illustrations and to see that how a tourist destination at India was being created as a tourist destination, but what was being highlighted was just not the extraordinary, the grand elements of the Indian landscape, but also they ventured into the everyday, they ventured into what was our ordinary and banal routine of Indians. Thank you.